Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the new horror movie Pet Sematary. Modern horror movies are a lot like shit. They're shitty. And Pet Sematary isn't that much of an exception. There's nothing unique about Pet Sematary. It doesn't do anything new. It doesn't do anything particularly well either. It's just a pretty bland, generic horror movie. It's based on Stephen King's book of the same name. Most of the complaints I see are from people saying all of the changes they made they weren't in favor of, and I didn't read the book, so I don't give much of a fuck about that. But what I can recognize about this movie is it's just a goddamn generic horror movie. But it does certain things well enough that it's better than most modern horror movies. I think in terms of building suspense, there's some scenes that are executing it very well in the movie. There's a dumbwaiter scene that's drawn out over the course of like a minute 30 of just sound and slow movements that I think did a great job of building up to a very predictable jump scare. But overall, there are scenes that do tension building well in the movie, but the scare that it goes for is more just a predictable jump scare that you know is coming, you prep yourself for, and sometimes still get startled by. So I guess that speaks to, you know, some degree of talent to make you know a jump scare is coming and then still get you with it. But, I mean, the movie is, like I said, a generic horror movie. The acting's good enough. The acting's nothing wild. It's not like Hereditary level, but it's good enough. It sells you on some good performances from the main cast. Some of the things I like about the movie is the pacing. I actually think the pacing in the movie is pretty decent. It fits its overall dark tone, so I can definitely respect why it had the rather questionable pacing that most people are, you know, talking about. I think it actually fit the tone of the movie pretty well, so I don't have a problem there. And I also like that the movie's R-rated, so it doesn't water itself down, so it'll show you some creepy, gory shit to get under your skin and really sell you on the dark tone of the movie, which plays to the strength of the movie. There's not a whole lot of strength to the movie to begin with, so they really needed that. And man, I just need to fucking vent about this. There's trucks in this movie. The house is right next to a main road, and there's these big fucking trucks that are constantly driving down that road, and that's such a big part of the whole movie. Literally, like, everyone in town is getting hit by those fucking trucks. You'd think they would come up with, like, a law or something where those trucks can't drive that road because the fucking truckers are literally slaughtering the entire goddamn town. Every single scene has a new person getting hit by a fucking truck on the road. It's incredible. That's just, you know, a little nitpick right there. I don't know if that's in the book, but it shouldn't be called Pet Sematary. It should be called Shitty Truckers on a one-lane road. It's fucking dumb how many people get hit by the trucks in the movie. Spoiler alert, I guess. But, yeah, anyway, it's just a really generic, cliche horror movie. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. There's some things it does well, and it is an above-average horror movie. It doesn't fall victim to, like, really shitty jump scares or really bad tension building, and it is kind of a creative concept in a certain way that I just don't think was executed all that well. The ending, I think, is very silly. It has a very silly ending, but overall, not a bad horror movie. Plugging this shit into the Moist Meter, I'm giving Pet Sematary a 60%. I definitely think it could have been better, and probably the book's better, I don't know, but I'm not reading the book. But anyway, that's the end of that. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
There's a very popular trend in modern horror movies where you make them suck as much shit as possible and they're just entirely forgettable. Luckily, that's not the case with it. I really enjoyed the first one from start to finish. I thought it did a great job in its horror elements as well as its comedy. The comedy really stood out to me because when you go to a Stephen King movie adaptation, the only comedy you're usually getting is unintentional because they suck some fat fucking asshole. That wasn't the case with it, and it really stood out to me. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a very solid horror movie and just a really purely enjoyable movie start to finish. It Chapter 2 had its work cut out for it to really follow that up, and it did a great job, and a lot of it boils down to just incredible casting. Bill Hader as Richie absolutely fucking annihilates the role. He is a really, really talented actor, as well as James Ranson, the one who plays the adult Eddie. And he's basically as if the kid actor grew to a 40-year-old man in the 2 years it took in between this movie and the last one. It's like the same goddamn guy. It's as if you actually are watching the kid in an adult's body. They act the same, they basically sound the same, and they even fucking look the same. It's wild. I don't know if James Ranson's the young child actor's father or something, but it's fucking wild how similar they are. But there's no bad characters or anything like that. I just thought those two really shined, in my opinion, because once again, in an area I didn't expect it to be great in, comedy, it fucking nailed. I didn't think they could make it happen twice. I didn't think you could take Stephen King's work and make it intentionally humorous twice and have it land, but they fucking did it. And I respect that, because it made me laugh a couple times. I thought it was just really well written there. As far as the horror elements go, I actually think they're weak, I'd say. But it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you have them going on this mission of finding themselves and what they want to be, what they're hiding, what they've forgotten. And you don't really put a whole lot of horror into it. Yes, in all of their situations, Pennywise is there kind of fucking it up and making them face it head on, trying to bring out the fear. I get that, but it's just not very effective. It's far more emotional, I'd say. And also in some of these arcs, the CGI hurts it. Like, there's some downright goofy-looking CGI moments where, you know, you're sitting on a bench and all of a sudden you got, like, a fucking CGI kaiju lumberjack wielding, like, some type of World of Warcraft item as a fucking weapon coming at you. And it looks kind of like a video game cutscene. It's not believable. It's just really silly. And that's a little disappointing, but if it was going for silly, it nailed it. And it's hard to tell, because the movie is self-aware in certain places, but then you have this whole thing that's kind of like, this is supposed to be scary, but it's not. And that comes out pretty hard at the end, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'll get into spoilers just to kind of make my point, and I'll let you know well before I get into there, but I'd really like to get that out. Another thing I really appreciated about the movie is that it wasn't afraid to shy away from being brutal again, like the first one. I always appreciate that, because in a lot of modern horror movies, even if they are R-rated, their idea of being brutal is, here's some severed arms and here's some severed legs. They don't really show how it gets to that point or what goes on. It shows you all of that shit, and I guess I can appreciate that to a certain degree, just because most modern horror movies are so pussified, just very pussied. They're just not, they don't have any bite to them. At least I think in its deaths and brutal shit, it goes kind of hard in that department. And I really just don't have a whole lot of negative things to say about this. The comedy landed when there was elements to try and make you creeped out. It sometimes worked, though it never really felt earned with enough tension built up for it. But it was always fun to see. I think the It franchise has a unique advantage where it can show you all types of fun stuff. It's not locked into just like paranormal shit where a chair is moving weirdly or somebody's possessed and they're walking around like fucking Frankenstein's monster, hands out. It shows you a lot of cool shit. You have a clown just fucking with you and showing you some really cool shit, and I really enjoyed that, even if it wasn't all that scary. Now, at the end of the movie, now I am going to get into spoilers, just a few spoilers, forewarning if you want to avoid that. The end of the movie gets downright very silly to me. I think the CGI with Pennywise the spider doesn't really work all that well. It looks like some low-budget Dead Space shit to me. I didn't think that was very intimidating, and I really don't like that trope of, you know, he's been omniscient this whole time, and now all of a sudden characters can kind of sneak around to the side of him while he's distracted slapping at a wall. Yeah, this entire movie, he knows everything going on everywhere about every single one of these characters. Now, when they infiltrate his lair at the very end, he has no idea where they're going or what's going on. That makes no sense. That's when he should be strongest, right? And if he can't, like, read their minds like he has been able to, all he had to do was, like, out of his fucking peripherals, he would have seen people sneaking around to his right and maybe acted sooner and stopped them in their tracks. It's just a horror movie trope, I suppose. And I also thought when they defeat him, it looked extremely easy, and it's something he should have expected, because it's kind of what they fucking did in the first one already. They basically just defeat him by insulting him. Hey, your dick's small. You're just a clown. You're just a small clown. You're a clown, you're a clown, you're a clown. He starts shrinking and shrinking. Oh no, you're hurting my feelings. I'm big, no. And then they crush his heart, and that's the end of it. It's underwhelming. And I know that's how, I understand it follows the book a bit. I didn't read the book, but I understand that this shit happens in the book as well. So I get it, but, you know, as when they were younger, you can excuse it because it's kids doing it. You know, it's very different when you have 40-year-old men and women doing it. Like, you're a clown, you're small, fuck your stupid dumb stuff, and he's shrinking. It's just a little goofier, and it really wasn't that threatening at the end, in my opinion, especially after, you know, you have 2 movies to build up a final showdown, and you get it like that, where it just ends up a roast, really shitty roast. Just kind of underwhelming. That's my only, like, actual huge complaint, just because I felt that was just not very good. But putting that aside, let's plug It Chapter 2 into the moist meter. I'm giving It Chapter 2 a nice 80%. I think it is a very enjoyable movie with a lot to offer anyone. It has a very long runtime, but I think it's warranted. I think there's enough substance in the movie. I think nothing really feels overly rushed, and I just really enjoyed it start to finish. A very solid horror flick that's surprisingly humorous. That's about it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
There is no genre that elicits more audible sighs and eye rolls harder than zombie. The zombie games, zombie movies, just that craze where everything was zombie inspired for the better part of 5 or 6 years, where it really overstayed its welcome in an oversaturated genre, burnt out the majority of people on zombie shit as a whole. But now that that craze has been dying out for the last few years, Zombieland 2 comes out, and it's 10 years after the first one, and the first one really wasn't a massive success by any means. It was well liked by a lot of people, and it had a decent enough following, but it's not exactly the most eager enthusiasts in the world for Zombieland. You don't have them like scratching at the fucking neck for 10 years waiting for their fix for more Zombieland. But regardless, the Lord bestowed upon them that gift with Zombieland 2 Double Tap, and it's a good movie. It has some of the same style the first one did, just not to that level. I think the first one still had a lot more passion and a lot more style to it. That's what probably my favorite part about what Zombieland 1 was. It was just hyper stylized, and I really enjoyed that. But this does have it in doses, not quite to the same extreme. This movie just felt more driven by sending a message, you know, what it means to be a family and have a home in a post-apocalyptic shithole. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not exactly the most unique message, nor was it all that special. The plot was simple enough. You know, Lil Rock runs away with a hippie. They go to a hippie camp, and then the gang gets back together to try and make sure she's safe, and then they defend the camp. Simple stuff, nothing to complain about there, nothing great about it either. It's just this movie felt like the emphasis was more on some family shit, kind of a whole movie dedicated to fan service. Like, we know you guys liked them in the first one, here they are again doing their shit in this one. Nothing wrong with it, it's just kind of uninspired. Where I feel this movie really lacks is in its comedy department. I feel the jokes miss more often than they land. I just really... the whole movie feels dated. It feels like a lot of the humor doesn't really make sense in the context of the movie, and it just doesn't work very well in its favor. For example, one of the first jokes they make in the movie is calling dumb zombies a homer, as if Simpsons is really something people care about these days. Simpsons has such a negative connotation around it as a shitty show that's overstayed its welcome in and of itself. So calling them a homer isn't exactly like the best joke ever, and all the zombies do is clap at butterflies and stuff, you know? Homer shit. It's just kind of a weak joke to make, and it's not like an overly reoccurring one, but that's kind of the theme for a lot of their jokes. It's like the lowest shit from 10 years ago translated into a 2019 movie. Elvis Presley plays a major role in the middle part of this movie. Just the idea of Elvis Presley and Elvis Presley related locations are a huge centerpiece to the movie for a decent chunk of it. And that's another thing. That's some shit you joke about with your friends in middle school. Ah, Elvis died taking a shit on the shitter. And that's like, that whole idea of Elvis is big in this movie. It just feels low. Feels like there really wasn't a lot of effort to try and make you laugh. Sometimes a joke does land, and more so when they go to the hippie camp. But until they get there, and until you get into that area, everything just kind of falls flat. They introduce the most generic character, you know, that dumb girl. Oh, hey guys, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, to be like a really annoying dumb girl, you know, not smart at all. And that's her comedy, is just being dumb, but not even like clever stupid, just like, oh, you're old. Oh, is that your dad? Because your dad would be old because you're kind of old, so your dad would be super old. Your dad, right? Because he's old. It's just the comedy really just didn't work for the majority of the movie. And that's the biggest complaint I have about it. When they're killing zombies, the shit is still stylized and it's still nice, though it doesn't have the same flair that the first one did. That it is still intact, and you can see they still have that charm to it. I also really like the visuals in this one, probably even more so than the first one. Like, I really like Babylon, which is their hippie camp, the pacifist group I also like when they take over the White House and make that their home for a little while. Shit looks really cool on the inside. It looks like something I would have wet dreamed about as an 8th grader. They got toys and shit all over the place. Basketballs, swords, blades, all kinds of cool little utensils in the White House. There was a lot to like from a setting perspective and visually. And characters, I think the characters are still great and they're still as good as they were in the first one. It's just they didn't have strong writing around them when they're making jokes, unfortunately. It's just overall, I don't think the movie's as solid as a package as the first one, but as just kind of a victory lap with cool characters and a good style, it's not a bad movie by any means. So plugging Zombieland 2 double tap into the moist meter, I'm giving this bad boy a nice 60%. It's worth seeing if you've seen the first one. It's always cute to revisit characters, especially after this long a period of time, just to see what they're doing. Even if it isn't the most inspired, nor is it the best sequel, it's still a fun movie to go to. And that's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Willy's Wonderland, a movie heavily inspired by the Five Nights at Freddy's video games, which is a franchise that still sends many children to bed with wet nightmares and haunts the boners of many. Five Nights at Freddy's was a phenomenon, and I believe it still is. Matt Pat of Game Theory has like 600 videos of Five Nights at Freddy lore and hypotheses on the universe. So I mean, it's a big deal as far as video games go. And this movie draws a lot of inspiration from it. It features Nicolas Cage locked in a Chuck E. Cheese that's been cursed by a satanic ritual and haunted by animatronics that constantly feed on people. And Nicolas Cage has to clean the place before morning and survive the night. And I have to say, this is Nicolas Cage at his worst, because Nicolas Cage doesn't say a word in this movie. He doesn't have a single line. He only even makes one audible noise, which is when he grunts after taking a drink. And I thought he sharted his pants, which is why he made like this weird groan. But that's the only time you even hear Nicolas Cage's vocal cords even fluctuate a bit. He's got some golden pipes, and I wish they had used them. But him being a silent protagonist isn't the worst thing in the world, because it's a movie that's not trying to be taken seriously. I'm pretty sure it's very self-aware. Like, there's a fucking character in this movie that every time he's on screen, he's chewing on a Slim Jim, just suckling on a Slim Jim like it's his mom's titty. It's not a movie that's trying to be anything special. It's just supposed to be a fun movie, which I think it succeeds at. The story doesn't make any sense. They don't even try and tie anything together to make it make sense. Like, Nicolas Cage every hour has to go drink a soda and then play pinball, and that's never really explained. At least I think it's a soda. It could have been beer, but since it's not Budweiser, I don't know. I wasn't able to pick up on it right away. It was either beer or a soda, but every hour he has to go drink and play some pinball, where he just stops everything and goes and does that, and it's never explained why. So he's just a routine fucking pinball wizard that just has to go over there and drink and play pinball every hour. It's just, there's a lot of things in this that just don't make any sense, and they don't try to make it make sense. They just wanted a lot of animatronics for Nicolas Cage to beat the fuck out of, which he does, and they do have a lot of that. There's also other characters in this movie, some younger characters that it doesn't seem like the actors really tried. It's like every single one of their lines was their first take, which is, it kind of gives it a certain charm where it's like extremely goofy, like Attaway General, which I didn't mind, but it is like objectively horrible acting, and they make the worst decisions I've ever seen in a movie, which I think is on purpose, because again, the movie's not trying to be taken seriously. But for instance, like there's these two characters, and everyone in this group knows that it's haunted. They 100% know these animatronics are killing people, and they go in anyway, and then the two characters decide to fuck in the birthday room where a lot of kids die, and as they're fucking, they notice one of the animatronics is alive and watching, and they continue to fuck, saying they want to give it a good show. And then, spoilers, they do die to that animatronic. He wasn't impressed by the show. Like, and these two characters just moments before were saying how they want to get the fuck out because they don't want to die, they don't want to be around those animatronics. And then literally one scene later, they're like, let's go fuck in the birthday room. Like, it's crazy. The decision making is awful, which I think is on purpose. I think the movie was going for cheesy, so bad it's good kind of shit. And usually that doesn't work, but for this movie I think it did, because they focused on the best part of it, which is Nicolas Cage just beating the shit out of animatronics, just spreading animatronic cheeks and raw fucking them. Because Nicolas Cage has a huge kill count of animatronics by the end of this movie, and it's all practical effects, so he's just like slapping fucking stuffed animals around, and you hear like the little thuds because it's like real stuffed animal shit and animatronics. It's good. Curb stomping some of them, ripping skulls off, suffocating them with his taint. Like, it's good. Like, it's fun. It's a fun, bad movie. And again, it doesn't try to do anything except give you a lot of kills on animatronics to watch and enjoy, because that's really all this movie has to offer. I wish Nicolas Cage talked. I think that really could have brought it up to another level, and having him be silent is a bit of a missed opportunity in my opinion. Or maybe Nicolas Cage only signed on if he didn't have to say a word. Couldn't tell you, but I do think him being a silent protagonist for the entire film was a misfire. And it would have been nice if they at least tried to have some story elements and tie everything together, because I definitely think they had ways of doing that. They just decided not to, which, again, is fine. It's not the biggest deal in the world. So I'm just going to plug this into the moist meter. I'm giving Willy's Wonderland a 60%. I enjoyed it. It's by no means a great movie or anything, but it is a fun one just to watch Nicolas Cage go a little wild beating up some demonic animatronics at a Chuck E. Cheese. What's not to like about that? Just beating up evil magic animatronics is just fun to watch. It's time we talk about the magical earbuds from Raycon. I've mentioned these multiple times now and again. I will continue to stress how important it is to have yourself a nice quality pair of wireless earbuds when you're working out, so you can get those crucial boner jams for those big reps and not have to worry about accidentally slapping your wire and hurting yourself, ripping them out of your ear and just being a nuisance. Raycon sound just as amazing as the other top audio brands, but they're coming in at half the price. Their everyday E25 model is their best one yet, with 6 hours worth of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing. I'd highly recommend them. If you're interested in trying Raycon, you can click the link in the description below to get 15% off your order. So again, if you're interested in Raycon wireless earbuds, you can click the link below for 15% off. So that's buyraycon.com/moist for 15% off. Buyraycon.com/moist. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the final season of Stranger Things. At least I think it is, otherwise I'm super wrong and look like a fucking idiot. But it's season 4 of Stranger Things. It's divided into 2 parts, though that's not exactly accurate because this first part is significantly longer than the second part. The next one's just 2 episodes to close it off. And I've got to say, this is the best season of Stranger Things. It takes all the best qualities of the first 3 seasons and then does them better here. It has a little bit of everything. So there's a lot of characters in Stranger Things now, which could be kind of overwhelming for a lot of people. But the way that they break them off into their own pocketed adventures that still contributes to the overarching plot is masterfully done this season. For example, this isn't spoilers, I don't think, because I'm assuming if you're watching season 4, you've watched previous seasons. Hopper has his own storyline with Joyce and Murray, and that's all taking place completely separate from everything happening in Hawkins, as well as what's happening in California with Mike, Will, Eleven, and everything there. So there's basically 3 different plot lines that are all running adjacent to each other, and I'm assuming with the final 2 episodes all come together to close off the series in a grand way. And it works so well. It'll bounce from story to story. It almost feels like a video game where you're going through chapters throughout an episode. So you complete, chapter 1, which is X amount of levels in Hawkins. Then you go to chapter 2, which is X amount of levels in Russia at a secret facility that Hopper's being kept at. And it just really works well. And by doing this, they offer a lot. So in Hawkins, they're introducing a lot more horror elements. The big bad villain, Vecna, is killing people in Hawkins and mutilating them. So raising them in the air, snapping their bones all over the place, busting out their eyeballs. It's gory, it's violent, it's over the top. It's great. Like, this is the first season I would say actually tries to be at least a little bit scary and unnerving. It's very violent. The fucking villain treats human beings' bodies like my dogs treat chew toys. Just absolutely eviscerates them. And, of course, in previous seasons, there's a lot of bloody moments and everything, but I'd say this is the first season where they actually try and unnerve you and deliver actual horror elements to its plotline, and I think they do it pretty well. Like, before this, I would say the horror was kind of Weenie Hut Jr. with Stranger Things. Like, no one's exactly going to be watching Stranger Things, like, peeking over their blanket at night unless they're, like, 8 years old or something, and it's, Nick Jr.'s horror, like, their first experience with anything, like, bloody. But this season, I would say there are elements where they do a pretty good job of building tension, and I really appreciate that. And then you get to Russia, Kamchatka, where Hopper is trying to break free, coming to terms with some things. He's getting tortured literally getting tortured. He's busting his own ankles, coming up with different plans to escape. And in there's just good old-fashioned, red-blooded American action. Guns blazing, asses being slapped, teeth being punched out of each other's faces, real manly shit going on in Russia. So there's a lot of action on that side with pretty much no horror. And then you get to, unfortunately, the worst of the three plot lines, which is Will, Argyle, Jonathan, and Mike. They are the only plot line that seems completely isolated from the other ones in that they don't know anything going on. They don't know what's happening in Hawkins, really. They don't know what's happening in Russia, really. They're focused on one singular goal that I don't want to get into because of spoilers, but they just go on their own little adventure. And there's action. There's a fucking gunfight that breaks out and shit gets wacky, wild, and extreme, real nuts to butts, crazy shit. But that's just one small piece. The rest of it is them taking a long drive and not being in the loop of the grand scheme of the plot. It also, they have the least amount of screen time. They're not playing a big role right now in the show. Of everything happening, you don't see a lot of that entire side. Which is unfortunate because I think Mike and Will would have a massive role to play in this, considering the first season, which kicked everything off, was very much focused on Mike and Will and their important role to play in the whole grand scheme of it. But here, they're kind of just sidelined and benched to basically just playing catch-up. It's like they're babysitters that are just late to everything, which is unfortunate, but I'm hoping with the last 2 episodes they'll actually get a little piece of the pizza instead of just getting the crust like they are right now. Because I think that they could offer a lot to the plot, they just haven't yet. But again, there's still 2 episodes left, so I'm assuming there will be a chance for them to come in and do something big. But since we're just looking at part 1, I would say that that's undoubtedly the weakest component, is that whole storyline. I still think the characters are great, and they're still fleshing them out, and I do think they're on an interesting adventure. We just don't see a lot of it yet. And when they're on screen, like just doing a long car ride, that shit'll just kind of put you to sleep. And if you want to sleep really well, you can sleep on a Helix mattress. Big thanks to Helix for sponsoring today's video. Helix makes premium quality mattresses that are conveniently shipped to your door and perfectly match your sleeping needs. They have a Helix sleep quiz which will match you to the perfect mattress based on your body type and sleep preferences, so if you want something more firm or something a little softer, it'll find that out in the sleep quiz and match you with the perfect mattress to accompany that. So I've had a Helix mattress for about 2 years now, and it's still the perfect fit for my body type. It's not super firm and it's not super soft, it's in that nice limbo in between, and it's still a comfort level I haven't seen in other mattresses since. It was a super quick and easy process to fill out the quiz and get that mattress, and I absolutely think it was 100% worth it. And it was also just super easy to get it all together since it was shipped right to the door. It comes rolled up in a box, you just unroll it, and then you're pretty much set to go. And there's even a 100-night sleep trial that lets you test the mattress to ensure that you love it. And if you don't, you know, no problem. Helix mattresses include a 10-year warranty, and they offer financing options for flexible payment plans. So if you're interested in getting a premium mattress to match your body type, make sure to go to helixsleep.com/moist to get up to $200 off plus 2 free pillows. The visuals this season are far and away the best they've ever had. I think they've done an incredible job with everything here. It looks great. And since this is the final season, we're seeing a lot more of the Upside Down and the other dimension and the other monsters and stuff. And it's really looking good. Like, I just think everything they've shown, top notch. Every episode's like an hour and a half. And throughout the entire episode, they never really drop into like shitty visuals or bad CGI. For the most part, I can think of like 2 scenes off the top of my head where I was kind of like a little embarrassed to see a couple of things I saw on screen. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but there were some like Nintendo 64 graphic moments where I was like, ooh, that kind of jumped out and didn't look good. But for the most part, like when it's important and everything that's happening is big, they do a great job of delivering some high quality visuals. I also think the writing this season has been the best in the series. I think in a lot of the previous seasons, they banked a lot on like that old nostalgia and like cheesy, campy writing. And while that's still here sometimes, it's a lot less on the nose and everything seems a lot more grounded. The characters seem a lot more like there. Whereas instead of just like vomiting references at each other, they're just having conversations. Like conversations I could absolutely see happening between friends. That being said, it's not perfect or anything. There's definitely some like bad writing moments, but overall I was a lot happier with this season than previous ones. And I want to say, this next complaint is something this show had no control over. Netflix releasing all of part 1 at the same time for the fucking binge model is so outdated and I'm so tired of it. I prefer weekly releases. I don't know why they haven't realized that weekly releases leads to a lot more longevity for a production. When it's a weekly release, everyone watches it at the same pace. Even if you're like a day or two late to watching it, you're still at the same spot as everyone else who may have watched it a bit sooner. But with binge model, there'll be people that'll finish it all in one sitting, and then you can never talk about it with anyone because of spoilers. And you can never talk about it yourself because you might be further than somebody else. You're not all on the same page, and it makes it hard to talk about the show. And for me personally, watching shows, watching movies, the most fun part is to talk about it with people. But with the binge model, it makes it so fucking difficult to do that with anyone. It's just, I'm so tired of it. Weekly releases are a lot better. It drives up hype too. Great example is Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer was a decently popular anime all the way up until episode 19. Week 19 of Demon Slayer blew it up because that episode got everyone talking on Twitter like, holy shit, this was a visual spectacle, this was amazing, and then everyone tuned into Demon Slayer going forward and it became a massive phenomenon. And it all started because of episode 19. If they had released all 24 episodes of Demon Slayer Season 1, that would have flew under the radar. Maybe a couple popular clips, but it wouldn't have had the same staying power. Weekly releases are just better. You can talk about it with people because you're all on the same fucking page. You're all at the same pace. I'm tired of binge model. I'm tired of it. Not Stranger Things' fault, but god damn it, I just needed to vent. For another great example, JoJo's Part 6 was dumped 12 episodes all at once 8 months ago and they still haven't released Part 2. They have fundamentally killed JoJo's Part 6 hype. It's embarrassing. The binge model is fucking cringe and it makes me sad. It makes me real upset. And I just want it to go back to weekly releases or do what Arcane did. 3 episodes a week. Bang. Then you get the best of both worlds. You get a ton of content, you're still getting weekly releases so most people can stay on the same page and talk about it and engage with the content with their friends. Water cooler talk, I believe, is what it's called in the business. So, just wanted to get that out there. And also, just one more fucking example. When Stranger Things Season 3 came out, they dropped all of it at the same time, which means everyone binged it. So they only talked about it for like 2 or 3 days and then everyone forgot about it. You never see anyone mention Season 3 of Stranger Things, even though it was a pretty good season. It just immediately died out and fell off because everyone binged it all at once and it didn't last long enough. Now I'm done. Binge model, silly. Back to Season 4 Stranger Things. I don't think this was a perfect season by any means, but I do, like I said, I do think it is their best, and it was extremely entertaining. There's a couple plot holes that I won't talk about yet because, obviously, but I also think there's a really good chance for them to clean that up in the next 2 episodes to close it off. There's a couple things that don't really check out or make sense with the way that they've described them in Season 4 with what we've already established in previous seasons. So I'm just curious to see how that wraps up. They're not like glaringly awful plot holes that ruin the whole show, but there's just a couple of things in particular with Season 2 that didn't really match here in the latest season. I also think Season 4 has a bit of a problem with its runtime. I appreciate long episodes of shows, and like I said, every episode here is pretty fucking long. But there is just some actual bloat in some of these episodes. For example, like the basketball stuff. They spent quite a bit of time building that up, and so far it's amounted to nothing. Yes, the basketball team still exists, and yes, they still have a role to play, but it's super minor, and they spent quite a bit of time on that in the early episodes, and it padded out a lot of time that I don't think was necessary. There's definitely just some fluff they could have shaved off here and just kept the meat on the bone. They just added a little too much to it, and I don't think all of it has mattered. And let me just get a couple of nitpicks out of the way. The adults in this season are actual brain-dead fucking zombies. They make no good decisions at all. But not only that, of course this show is mainly about the kids and their adventure and how they're the ones that are like really saving the world and all that. But I genuinely mean, outside of like Hopper, Joyce, Murray, that whole side, like the adults in Hawkins, I swear to God, were hit with like a giant fucking stupid beam that turned all of them into actual idiots. None of them have ideas that make sense, or like plans or thoughts that make sense. Like The basketball team convinces the town of adults of some stupid shit that they all take at face value, and that kind of dumb assness continued for the entire season, where all of the adults here were just stupid. Like, actually wildly incompetent. A bit of a nitpick, since they're not like a focal point of the show. When the adults are there, they're just there to be a hindrance. But in previous seasons, they'd be there as a hindrance, but still smart. Like, they're still making logical decisions and being rational. Here, it's like Halloween Kills, where it's evil dies tonight and everyone's lost their goddamn mind. It blew me away with how dumb the adults in Hawkins were. But anyway, plugging Season 4 of Stranger Things into the Moist Meter, I'm giving it a nice 90%. I actually would have gave it a little bit higher, but since there's no actual conclusion here, it's hard to do that. But I thought it'd still be fun to moist meter it in 2 parts. I think this first part has been an extraordinary setup, and I'm really hoping they slam dunk the ending, because they've got something great here, and I think they can close this series out beautifully. So I definitely think this is their strongest season. I'm hoping that this has some staying power where people will talk about it a little bit longer than they did Season 3, because I'd like to talk more about it, but I can't yet because of spoilers. It's just been a really good, entertaining season, and I'm super happy with the direction they took with this, and I'm excited to see how it wraps up. That's about it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Smile is the most shocking movie I've ever put into the moist meter. This was full of more surprises than a David Blaine magic show. I went into this movie fully expecting it to be fun bad. If you watch my streams, you'll know that I've been very excited to see Smile, mainly for all the wrong reasons, because I thought it'd be so shitty that it'd be enjoyable, since I'm a fan of movies that are so bad they're good. With Smile, I didn't get that. It was actually just a pretty good movie, which I truly didn't expect. They need to fire whoever made the trailer for this film, because they made it look really stinky and like goofy, but in the film, it's not. Now, this whole smiling as a horror concept has been done before by Truth or Dare, which was a very silly, shitty horror movie from a few years back. And in fact, if you go on YouTube right now and put the Smile trailer thumbnail side by side with the Truth or Dare trailer thumbnail, they're pretty much identical. But the difference is, Smile is competent, which I can't even believe I'm saying out loud unironically. Somehow they made this work pretty well. Now, it's no masterpiece or anything, it's no Hereditary by any means, don't get it twisted, but this movie succeeds in what it aims to do. It knows what it is, and it plays the part well. I really expected the smiling, since it's such a core part of the film, to be dumber. But somehow it wasn't. Yeah, of course, it's a modern horror movie. There's gonna be like really nonsensical, dumb shit in there that's gonna make you laugh, unintentionally. But somehow the smiling wasn't as stupid as I thought it was going to be. They really did kind of make that work. I wouldn't say it's used sparingly in the movie at all, but every time there's that smiling, it's pretty impactful and is effective at building tension for the most part. So let's just get into it. The movie is as simple as it gets. It could have been written by a goddamn AI. There's a curse, a supernatural entity that latches on to people, and it makes them see smiling things around them that cause bad stuff to happen. That's the gist of the film, and it always ends in death, so the main character has to figure out a way of fighting this curse. And much like most supernatural shit, she can't just strap on the boxing gloves and challenge it to fisticuffs, you know? So they have to get creative with it. But it's pretty generic when it comes to like the story itself. The narrative isn't anything new. Like I said, it's very simple, very predictable, but that doesn't mean that it's not done well. This movie doesn't do anything new, but everything it does well, and better than most modern horror movies. That's where it excels. And I really think a large part of it is how great the main character was, Rose. The performance from Sosie Bacon, I believe that's how you say her name, was just actually super good. Like, this wasn't just some, like, throwaway performance that an actor takes just for the sake of a paycheck, but they spit on it and it's pretty clear they don't care. She really put forth, like, a great effort with this character, and it shows. She does a great job of, like, conveying the trauma, as well as just, like, actual good ideas and, like, a thought process for the main character. Not every character in this movie makes good decisions, but for the most part, they're making logical ones. Though there are, of course, a lot of times where they make stupid fucking dog shit decisions, but aside from that, for the most part, they're doing smart things. And I will say the movie does actually get creative with a few of their jump scares. A lot of them are predictable. Like I said, this movie wasn't reinventing the condom or anything. It did play a lot of things safe and pretty generic, but it did it well. However, there's so many jump scares in this movie that some of them are actually pretty unique that I haven't seen done before. So I appreciated the creativity there. The one that everyone's seen, this isn't a spoiler, this was like a viral TikTok video, this is in the trailer. It's the one where the lady knocks on the window and then her head like swings across upside down as like a whoa spooky moment. Like there are actual good jump scares in here that I didn't expect or see coming a mile away, which is pretty rare for horror movies these days. And I do also think the movie does a pretty good job at building tension. It doesn't rely solely on jump scares, which I also was shocked by. It does actually try and legitimately build tension through its audio. This movie seemed to have put a lot of money into like the audio engineering of this and like actually making it build like this crescendo of chaos, which I think really helped it. But I will also say that came with a couple negatives. There was so much emphasis on the audio that sometimes it got a little overwhelming, and I feel like they tried a little too hard. There was one point in the movie towards the end where the track had some weird elements to it. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but basically the main character was talking to an evil thing, and there was a moment of silence, but they were building music the entire time. And they just started bringing in all kinds of things. You got like a fucking theremin going off, fucking water phone, weird sound effects, and then all of a sudden they had like throat singing. So it'd be like, oh, and I couldn't tell if it was like the actual music, the score of the movie, or people in the front row. Because they kept bringing in different voices doing it, and I really thought it was just people in the theater singing along or something, but I'm pretty sure it was in the film. So I think they tried a little too hard sometimes with the music, and it led to some goofy moments that straight up sounded like straight out of Roblox. So there were some misses in terms of their audio, but for the most part, I think it really helped, and they did a great job with it. Helped with the tension. I really just don't have many complaints about the movie. I will say, and this might be a little minor spoiler, I am so fucking tired of every horror movie having the exact same ending. Every fucking horror movie ends the exact same way. Smile is no exception, and I am just so fucking tired of that. That might be a spoiler, I'm not sure, but I think most of you already expect that anyway. For some reason, every horror movie has the same ending. Do something different. Fuck. And one other thing, and this one's a bit of a nitpick, I feel like they tried a little too hard with creative shots, like actual shots. There's like 5 different scenes in this film where they'll start with like just a static shot, but then slowly rotate the camera until it's upside down. They do it like 5 times for no reason. Like one time I think it's fine, and the first time they do it, I mean, it's pretty cool. But they did it so many times throughout the film, I just felt like they're just trying to do a little too much to be different, and it's just a couple misses there. But again, that's like a really small thing. Now this one's a little bit bigger, and it has to do with the main character. Overall, I think the main character is great. Rose does a good job and carries the film quite a bit, but there are some moments in this film that had me scratching my head and like wondering what the fuck is going on. Like, why would she react this way? I don't know if this is going to be a spoiler or not. I don't think it is, but she tells people about the curse, and she's a doctor. Like, she's a professional. Like, she should understand that people are obviously going to have a less than favorable response to talking about like a curse and paranormal entities, and she gets really offended when people don't immediately believe her about this whole fucking curse thing. So instead of trying to prove it or anything, she just gets like offended and stomps off like, my fucking fiance didn't believe me about the boogeyman. No, I'm not talking to him ever again. You know, like, it's silly. Eventually she does try and get evidence to prove it, but then when she has the evidence, she gets offended that her husband is called like a psychiatrist to sit in and talk about things with her. Like, you know, why are you getting upset? Like, obviously this is going to be a difficult bit of information for your husband to swallow. And she does this for a couple other characters that don't immediately believe her as well. And I just don't get why. Like, she should know, obviously, that people are going to want a little more information to prove it. No one was like combative with her when she brought this up. They're just like, okay, you know, this is a little concerning. I'm a little worried about your mental health at the moment. And she'd get like upset about it. But why? You know, like, it was just kind of nonsensical, and it seemed like drama for the sake of drama. But it wasn't like a huge deal, just kind of silly. Overall, Smile was a good movie. I didn't expect it to be anything beyond just fun bad, but it surprised me by actually just being pretty good. Plugging Smile into the Moist meter, I'm giving it a nice 80%. Yeah, I think it's just like an actual fun movie to watch. It wasn't fun bad, it was just fun good. That's about it. So yeah. This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap Issue 2. Go to godslapbook.com to order your copy now.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. You know I'm a fan of bad movies, like fun bad movies, where it's just stupid and horrible enough where it becomes enjoyable. It wraps around from being this awful experience to an unforgettably fun one. And that's what I expected to get with Megan. Megan went viral when the first trailer dropped because it had that like goofy dancing scene in there, and it's very clearly inspired by Chucky, at least in like the general premise that it was letting on, where it's this doll that becomes sentient and starts killing people. And it looked very goofy, so I went into this film expecting it to be dog shit. And it got me excited. It's a horror movie that had a wacky trailer that's being released in January, which is a month that's known as Fuck You, It's January for films, because that's where historically all of the worst movies are dropped. This had everything going for it to be a truly terrible film. So I went in there, high expectations, expecting it to be fun bad, but now after finishing it, I'm almost disappointed that it's not shittier. It's actually just not even bad. But it's also not at all what anyone's expecting. I thought this was going to be what everyone else thought. A movie about a doll, an AI doll, that starts killing people because it wants to protect the child that it's paired with. That's what the trailers seem to indicate that you're going to get, but it's not what you actually get. This is actually more of an emotional movie about a child coping with the loss of her parents and also what it means to have a connection. It like tackles kind of deep themes, like being connected to technology that's driven by algorithms to make you feel better, but not actually be, something with a soul, versus connecting with another person. And it really didn't do that concept poorly, which I would have thought it would. It's a January Blumhouse horror film, and yet somehow against all the odds, like the little engine that could, it chugga-chugga-choo-choos right up that hill of what should have been garbage and makes it on the other side to something that's pretty decent. It's by no means perfect, but it's really not bad either. Even when it attempts to inject comedy into the film, it does it moderately well. I would have thought most of the jokes would fall flat, and a good chunk of them do, but it makes enough attempts where some of them do actually work just because of the absurdity of it. Now again, if you've seen the trailers, you know just how ridiculous it gets. Like with Megan, the AI killer doll, running on all fours while chasing someone. Like, those moments are great, and that's when the movie's at its best, I think. Like, this is not a movie that's all about Megan killing people. That really only happens at the end, unfortunately. But somehow I wasn't bored even getting to that point, because it was just competently made with a decent story. But I really did prefer watching Megan kill people in creative ways. That's what I expected, and I did get it at the end, and when it's there, it was fun. That stupid dance that she does where she hits, like, the floss before grabbing, like, a goddamn machete off of the table, which isn't a machete, it's one of the paper cutting blades, but regardless, like, that's great. That's fun. That's stupid, enjoyable fun, and it feels very self-aware in this movie. I just wish there was more of it. This isn't a horror film, by the way. If you're going into this expecting it to be a horror film, you are going to be remarkably shocked. It doesn't even try to be. Even at the end of the film, it's not building tension or anything. It just kind of happens all at once. It's just like, alright, Megan's ready to kill. Activate death protocol. And then she starts killing. But until then, it doesn't build tension or anything like that. So I wouldn't go into this expecting it to be anything like that's trying to be scary, because it seems more like it's invested in like the general message that it wants to convey to the audience as opposed to like a scary experience. I really do get the impression that this was originally an R-rated film, because there are moments where Megan's killing and it's about to be gruesome, but then it pulls the punch right at the end, and I have to imagine that initially it didn't, but then they made the decision to make it PG-13 so they could open it up to a younger audience. And that's a little disappointing. I would have liked to see what this originally looked like in that regard, but I also understand that decision because it's clearly a message that's geared towards people that are always like connecting with technology as opposed to people, and that's mainly kids that grow up like terminally online on Twitter and shit. But it also then does dive into like what parenting means and the role a parent plays in a child's life. So it's not like it's specifically geared towards like a young audience. It's just one that I think a younger audience would connect deeper with on the theme, like the main theme. But anyway, I don't have major complaints other than some nitpicks that'll be spoilers and some shit that didn't land at all in the film, but it's all kind of in the spoiler territory and it's really not that big of a deal. Overall, I'm just surprised that this wasn't bad. Plugging Megan into the moist meter, I'm going to give it like a 75%. I don't have complaints really, like anything that's super big, which I can't believe I'm saying. This is a movie I truly thought was 100% bulletproof, going to be a fun stinker, but it just didn't stink. So yeah, actually an enjoyable film, that's about it. Godslap is a comic book series we've been working on for a couple years now. It's a hyper-violent, over-the-top sci-fi story about the beauty and destruction that slaps can cause. Issue 2 is out right now. It'd make a wonderful Christmas gift, so make sure to check it out at godslapbook.com. Right now we also have 3 variant covers that are in stock, but the second those sell out, those variant covers will never be restocked, so definitely make sure to pick up a copy today.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Scream 6. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was good. What if I just ended the Moist Meter there? I won't do that to you. I won't give you those blue balls. I'll go ahead and explain what I liked about it. This movie felt like a very self-aware horror film that actually understood how to build tension pretty efficiently. So, Ghostface is a cool killer. Dead by Daylight, I played him quite a bit. Not that that really matters in the context of the horror movies. It's not like they're referencing Dead by Daylight where he's fucking hanging people on meat hooks or anything. But point is, I think Ghostface is cool, and in this movie, he's at his best ever, I would argue. I still just love the phone calls that he gives where he cosplays as a Reddit armchair psychologist, but is actually able to read the person pretty well and hyper-analyze them and delivers this fucking bone-chilling monologue that's right on the money, always leading to a very tense standoff or a brutal, gory kill. In this movie, that's exercised extensively because the film is very self-aware and actually celebrates all of the previous Scream films as well. All of them get molded together into this one. It's very self-referential, and all of the previous Scream movies, the killers, the characters, they all do have a role to play in the Scream 6, but it's not bad. Like, it's not cheesy, it's not campy, it doesn't come across as, like, ham-fisted. It actually serves the narrative and the plot really well and keeps everything super interesting, and the movie does a great job of having you guessing constantly as to who the Ghostface killer is this time. Who could it possibly be? Because this one's far more menacing than previous ones. He's not, like, tripping over things when people throw something in front of him instead of, like, goofily, cartoonishly falling over it and, like, getting stunned by it because you tipped over a chair on your running around. Like, he'll just, you know, move the chair to the side and continue running right next to you. He actually conducts himself well in a normal fight. So, like, at one point, someone's got a shotgun, he, like, dodges, eventually overpowers a person and shoots them with the shotgun and then starts hunting with the shotgun out. Like, it's a side of Ghostface that I think is newer in terms of, like, how efficient he is as a murderer, if that makes sense. And it's complemented by the fact that the film is smart enough to make these scenes tense. So, while he's hunting with a shotgun, our 2 main characters are hiding, trembling, and actually making wise decisions in order to get out of that situation. Just overall, I was pretty impressed that they actually built tension in interesting ways. One tool they used a few times is the phone call, like I mentioned. And they keep it very on edge. Like, you're literally talking to the murderer, and you know he's got to be nearby since he's talking to you, and he's like fucking threatening you, letting you know, like, you are about to die. I mean, the fat lady's about to sing here, bub. You know, watch out, Buster, because he's nearby, and he's literally telling you that. And it works because as he's, you know, delivering this supervillain speech, the person is, like, exploring slowly, like, looking for Ghostface anywhere, like, opening a cookie jar, like, maybe he's hiding in there. I don't know, all of it just kind of worked well for tension building. Now, that's not to say this movie's, like, amazing or perfect or anything. It is a good movie, but there are some glaring issues. The biggest one being some characters get stabbed, like, 50 times, and it doesn't matter. Like, it feels like a lot of times the movie pulls punches when it comes to its... I don't want to give any spoilers, but there are some characters here where they'll get stabbed literally 50 times, but they'll keep fighting, and they'll be fine, right? Like, for instance, the main character gets stabbed like 3 fucking times at one point, and still is totally fine to, like, run around, fucking, you know, jumping jacks and fighting at all points, even just relaxing casually. Like, it seems like sometimes the stabbings don't matter at all. People will get blasted like a pincushion 50 fucking times and live in the film, which is weird, you know, for obvious reasons. And I think that's a pretty big problem. But another thing is the cops. Like, holy shit, Ghostface kills a lot of people. The body count in this film is pretty high. And the cops show up every single time. So there's like 50 fucking deaths. The cops are there every time, literally seconds after all the deaths happen. And they all involve the main characters, you know, Sam and Tara. And for some reason, they don't think like, a lot of people are dying around Sam and Tara right now in this group. Maybe we'll leave like an officer behind just to kind of like check it out. Because, I mean, he might strike again because he's killing every fucking hour, basically. Why don't we just leave a squad car behind just to see if maybe we get lucky and catch the killer here, right? Like, the cops are always showing up, but they never do anything preventative, and they never really act on anything or, like, investigate very well or really do anything helpful whatsoever. Another thing I also didn't really like, and this one's more of a personal preference, but I don't like when it gets meta. So like I said, this does celebrate previous Scream films, but it also celebrates horror films in and of themselves. Because, I mean, you know, this isn't the first time Scream's done something like that, but it's very in your face about it. So a character's giving a speech like, this isn't just a horror film, we're in a horror franchise right now, so all of us are suspects, and then goes down the list of why each person's a suspect based on horror movie tropes. And I just don't really like when it gets meta. I get why it's there, but for me personally, that always just feels yucky. I don't know, I've just never really liked that. So that wasn't really for me, that little flavor sprinkling in like horror movie tropes and like literally calling it out while still also acting on some tropes. Another thing I'd like to mention is the dialogue. Like, I don't think the writing's bad by any means. I actually think it's pretty good, actually. But there are moments where I had to roll my eyes, where there are points, for example, where one of the characters is saying like, here's why all of you are suspects. There's a lot of times where they're like, you're probably Ghostfaced. Well, you're probably Ghostfaced. And then like explaining you're Ghostface, this. It's just not very subtle when it comes to the way characters speak to each other. It's like very in your face. And a lot of the writing, at least towards the end when it comes to the reveals, it relies on a lot of plot conveniences in order for that surprise to work. And I do think it does, because I wasn't even close with my guess on who Ghostface was going to be or anything like that. I wasn't even in the right ballpark. But point is, there's a lot of plot convenience that needed to happen there in order for that to even remotely work. So there are just a couple of plot holes when you really start to think about what's happened and how it gets to that moment. But overall, I don't think it's like bad writing. It's just, there's some hit or miss moments, especially like with dialogue in particular. One thing I'd like to point out is there are so many times in this film, especially towards the end, where the theater started clapping. Like, I felt like I was in a fucking Marvel film and they just saw Spider-Man announced for the first time. Like, this was the most applause I have heard in a movie in a long time. And it happened, I think, 3 times at the end, roughly. And I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, like, everyone here was, like, super invested, clearly. Like, what the fuck? And that's a great thing. But I wanted to make mention of that because I thought that was so wild. I'm actually kind of doing a disservice explaining this because it wasn't just like clapping, not like golf claps. I'm talking like uproarious applause and like even some cheering at some point. I felt like I was at a goddamn sports event, honestly, and the home team had just scored the game-winning bucket. It was nuts, like how animated people got and cheerful at certain moments. But anyway, yeah, I did enjoy the film. Plugging Scream 6 into the moist meter, I'm giving it a comfortable 75%. I liked it. It's not perfect. It's not like amazing or anything, but it is a lot of fun to watch. And that's about it. As most of you know, we started our own comic book series called Godslap. Everyone who's read Godslap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and Godslap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and Issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and then they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Evil Dead Rise. This movie was shockingly good. Now before it came out, I know there was a lot of hype around it. Reviewers were going wild for it. They were really praising this film. They seemed happier about this movie than when they got their first kiss. Like, they really were glazing this film and giving it tons and tons of compliments. But I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. To me, that just feels like some kind of guerrilla marketing tactic or something. I didn't believe a horror movie could actually earn that level of appreciation. But I'm happy to say I was wrong. This movie actually did live up to the hype. Pretty much all horror films share the same DNA as one another. A lot of them are just extremely derivative and even just blatant carbon copy clones from time to time. Like most recently, Pope's Exorcist offers nothing unique or interesting about it. Evil Dead does have a lot of the standard horror movie tropes, but it's actually really self-aware in the way that it uses it, and even subverts expectations far more frequently than I thought would even be possible in a horror film. I watch like every horror movie that comes out. I think they are always entertaining and usually very stinky, but in a fun, bad way. This movie was entertaining and not bad. There were moments that I didn't think were great, and I'll get to those in a bit, but overall, I just really feel like everything this movie wanted to do, it accomplished with flying colors. Like, it fucking knocked it out of the park. And it's very much self-aware. It has all of like the dark humor you'd expect from the Evil Dead franchise, but it doesn't, you know, make it its focus. It doesn't become overbearing or annoying where they're shoehorning and ham-fisting jokes all over the place. There's times where it's used and it's sporadic, and when it's there, it's always in the most unexpected of circumstances where like tension is rising, it's reaching this like crescendo with all of these crazy sound effects, which is something that really stood out to me. This is like one of the loudest movies I've ever heard in my life, and yet it wasn't like a bothersome thing. Like, it just really crushed it with like the audio engineering here. There's a lot of unnerving noises that were always being played and lots of very loud fucking bombastic chaos, and it all worked super well for like tension and to like really drive home an important kill or moments. But regardless, like during these moments of tension, the tension will be broken not with like a generic jump scare, but with a dark joke, which I've never really seen before outside of like Evil Dead itself. So like, to give an example, I'll give a quick example, and this might be a minor spoiler. Once shit starts popping off, you know, it's going nuts to butts, 1,000,000 miles per hour, people are dying, the possessed mom is killing people, she bites the eyeball out of one of the residents of the building. And she spits that eye into the mouth of another resident that was in the background. She literally, like a fucking sniper, like a cannonball firing, spits the eyeball into his mouth, which was, you know, his jaw was on the floor because he couldn't believe what he was witnessing. So the eyeball goes into his mouth, and he chokes and dies on it. It was meant to be humorous, clearly. Like, it was very clearly meant to be humorous. in a moment where I would have never expected something like that to happen. And I was like, damn, that was hype. Like, that was great. That was executed wonderfully. And of course, they have like some dialogue, dark humor moments, again, in times where you'd never expect it. Like, right before the mom's about to kill one of the children, she calls him like a titty sucker, which was just so weird and out of left field that it put a smile on my face, had me grinning. It's just, everything that it did well. I don't think it does anything unique. I want to make that clear. It very much is cliche horror tropes, but executed on an extremely high level. And one thing that also really helps is it has really creative shots. Like, there's a scene where a character is looking through the peephole of her, her apartment door, and she's seeing the possessed mom killing some of the other tenants, and it's all happening through this peephole. So you're seeing bits and pieces of them flying off or getting thrown around, and fights breaking out, guns blaring, and it's all through the peephole, and it's a really interesting perspective that helps elevate the whole scene. And there's quite a few moments like that with really creative shot selection and cinematography, so that was also something I wasn't expecting out of a horror film, and it did it well. Really, I enjoyed it a lot. It gets so creative in general. Like I said, it uses the tropes, but it gets so creative with it. You know there's going to be a lot of kills. Nobody is safe in the film. But the way they kill off those characters are really innovative. It's shit that I've never seen before and would have never thought would make it to the big screen. There's a scene where they take the fucking cheese grater to someone's thigh and rip it like a goddamn Beyblade and give themselves a little, like, seasonal topping with their skin particles on the cheese grater. Like, it is not afraid to get wild and wacky. And while the tone of the film overall is very serious, it does have those self-aware moments, which is a nice breath of fresh air. I very much appreciate that, because it's a horror film. There's gonna be goofy cheese camp to it, 100%, and it embraces that fact. There's just really not a lot I didn't like about it, except the ending. This isn't going to be spoilers. I'm going to try to avoid that as much as possible. I feel like everything it was doing well, up until the ending, they threw out within the last, like, 15-20 minutes. Then it becomes, like, very painful, generic horror schlock. All of a sudden, this really destructive demon possession monster, like, morphs into something that you'd see in, like, a Resident Evil game, and it's a cool design, but it like nerfs itself. It's much weaker, it's much slower, it's no longer, like, scary. Like, now it's, like, instead of, like, hiding in the shadows and, like, busting out to fuck shit up, now it's just, like, slowly walking towards them, and it's not menacing anymore, and the characters are armed so they can fight back. It becomes almost like a throwaway boss battle in a video game, so it's no longer tense, it's no longer, like, unnerving, it's just kind of weak. I feel like they kind of floundered a bit on the ending, but everything up until then I thought was fantastic. Oh, also, one more, I guess, minor complaint. There's just some very stupid decisions that I can't get into that the characters make that are just fucking silly. Like, really silly. It would be too deep into spoilers to go over them, but just know there are a couple things the characters don't even think to try that I feel would have been a very strong alternative, as opposed to locking themselves in their apartment or the means at which they try to escape. I feel like they had other options that they didn't explore. But it's aside from that, it's not that big of a deal. It's really not. The movie was very fun. I enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job. Plugging Evil Dead Rise into the moist meter, I'm just going to give this like a nice 85%. It's just an overall good movie and a good time. So yeah, that's really about it. So yep, as most of you know, we started our own comic book series called Godslap. Everyone who's read Godslap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and Godslap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and Issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com. The Moist Meter is a proud partner of our comic book series Godslap and Plague Seeker. Both are available at badegg.co, link in the description. It's been a while since I dropped a nice sodden moist meter on all of you, and mainly it's because I just haven't been seeing too many movies, and a lot of the games I've been playing recently, it's taken me a while to finish them, so it's just been a little too late to make a moist meter on most of them. So, this is one of the few times over the last month or so that I've been on time to a film, and it's for Saw. Saw is a franchise that was a juggernaut for quite a while, but then over the last decade or so, it's really petered out on quality and just kind of fallen out of grace. It's bled out more than a lot of the victims in the Saw traps. It's just been a real steep decline in quality for most of the modern Saw movies, and a lot of previous fans of the franchise go into these films and have the same reaction they do when they go into a dirty porta potty. Well, what did I expect coming in here? This is about par for the course. But I'm happy to say with the newest Saw movie, Saw X, Saw 10, it's actually pretty decent. Like, it's not a masterpiece by any means, and I think the reviews on it are being extraordinarily generous with giving it such high marks. But in terms of modern Saw movies, this one actually has got some strong legs here. So let's get into it. The first thing I think this movie does really well is put the focus on John Kramer. He is the protagonist, whereas in pretty much every Saw movie, the protagonist is one of the victims playing the games. This movie is entirely around John Kramer, and they spend a good chunk of time building a narrative around him, which actually gives you insight into his moral code, as well as a very interesting plot about a very diabolical scam. I don't remember what all the trailers show, so I'm going to avoid spoilers when it comes to the narrative itself. But all the characters presented here that are playing the game are very hateable, but to different degrees, and in ways that haven't really been explored in previous Saw movies that I remember. Which is good, because there's been a few times in the Saw franchise where you have to wonder, why the fuck is this person even playing the game to begin with? Oftentimes, the people that are subject to Jigsaw's games are absolute menaces that have done heinous things and crimes. But then sometimes there's been a couple of cases where it's like, why are they here? Why are you torturing this person and forcing them to play this game? Like, all they did was forget to recycle, and now you're making them play the game of putting themselves in a hydraulic fucking press or something, or a garbage compactor? Like, what? Why? It's not that bad. Like, in one of the... We're going a little back on spoilers, but in one of the Saw movies, he has someone play the game for an honest mistake, which is something he himself recognizes, where at some point he's like, it was an honest mistake. It's like, well, what the fuck? You knew it was a mistake, and you still put him in the game to get tortured for however brief a time. It's like, what? Come on. At least in this film, everyone that's there, for the most part, deserves to be there for their involvement in this absolutely unforgivable scam. Now, anyway, moving on from the plot. How were the traps that Saw is known for and the games they have to play? They were fine. I don't think they were anything special. I think they were a little bit better than the Jigsaw movie from 2017. Those I thought were actually just fucking boring to watch, like, overall. These I thought were pretty decent for the most part, but it brings me to a complaint with the way he structures the games in this one, and it's not like it's unique to this movie. But he gives them pretty much no time to complete the tasks, which again, is not anything new here. But this is getting a little spoilery, so I guess spoiler warning. Of the people who play the games, all of them do exactly what they're supposed to, exactly how they're supposed to, in a very reasonable amount of time, but it's still not good enough. Because for some inexplicable reason, he puts an arbitrary time limit on all of these, that is absolutely fucking impossible. In order to complete the tasks that he gives them in the time he allows them, you would have to actually start before the time does. It's impossible. So the tasks aren't even really able to be completed because they start within 10 seconds of the timer for the most part and still can't get it done, even though they don't have any like hiccups or any breaks. They just full throttle, do exactly what they need to, but they just don't have enough time, so they miss it by seconds. If they were just given an extra minute, pretty much everyone here would have survived. End of spoilers. You can come back in now. Spoilers are gone. That was a little frustrating. That grinded my gears a little bit because even though all the characters are hateable, you don't like them and you're not rooting for them, you still recognize that this structure kind of goes against John Kramer's code because it's not exactly fair. Like, they do it. Like, they go through the redemption, right? They go through the reawakening, but they still lose just because of some arbitrary time limit. Which again, I know is anything but rare in the franchise, but still it was just a little frustrating because it was every single one of them. And it just got a little upsetting. But anyway, moving on from that, another thing that I want to mention that I think this movie kind of fumbles is the ending. There's no way to talk about the ending without some spoilers, so once again, another warning here. I really think it is just such an unsatisfying conclusion with quite a few plot holes when you really stop to think about it. So, the movie I thought did a good job of setting up the main bad guy, and make no mistake, John Kramer's not the good guy or anything, but I mean the main antagonist to John Kramer, the person who's like actually the focal point of assholes here that's forced to play the game. She is a very interesting opponent because she is really smart and really crafty, and through some pretty intelligent decisions that she makes, actually is able to get the word out for someone to come in and hopefully help out. And by the end of the movie, there's like a 2v2 battle between John Kramer and Amanda, who's his assistant here, and her partner. And it's a battle of wits. And eventually the tables turn on John and Amanda, and then eventually more twists and turns happen. And then the big finale, the main antagonist, she overpowers someone, kills them, and completes her game. Now, instead of her dying or anything, she just kind of sits there, and John and Amanda leave. With no actual closure on whether or not she survives. I guess the implication is they just leave her there and she starves to death and dies. But that's a little hard to believe because earlier in the movie they established that eventually they will be found at this location. And in fact, one of the, twist that comes in at the end is a child stumbles upon this, and the child even ends up getting involved in one of the games. So the fact that a child comes here means that there's most likely going to be other people that come here eventually, and probably wouldn't even take that long for them to get there. So she would likely still be alive. So she wouldn't have even died for all of the absolutely awful things that she's done and all the crimes she's responsible for. And John Kramer even made a point to say that at every point during her chance for reawakening, she's chosen death. There is no real redeeming for her soul, but instead of killing her, he just lets her kind of sit there in a pretty spacious area. It's not like she's really going to be struggling that much, to be honest. So she could get found, most likely would get found, she'd survive, and then she could even turn the authorities onto John and Amanda, since now she can make up whatever story she wants about everything that happened there, and then they'd go take care of John and Amanda. So it's just a really unsatisfying conclusion by not killing off the main antagonist who was positioned every step of the way in this film to have no redemption and no reason that she should be able to finish one of her tests, because she doesn't complete any tests at all. So why would she be able to survive? She doesn't finish any of the games. It doesn't make sense why they decided to go that route, and I really think that was a huge fuck up. At least in my opinion. But anyway, enough spoilers. Plugging Saw X into the moist meter, I'll give it a comfortable 70%. I think it's a good Saw movie. I don't think it's great by any means, but it's better than what Saw fans have been getting now for a little while. So it's pretty solid. I think if you like the franchise, you'll likely enjoy this one. If you don't like the Saw movies, I don't see this winning you over. But at the end of the day, it was fine. It was a good movie. That's about it. See ya.